Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Had a Proper Teacher, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. About showing off their new abilities to Kakashi. Kakashi was proud of all of their progress and made but a few minor suggestions to the new team tactics they had developed. However, Kakashi only had one day with them before the Chunin exam finals began. He advised them to get a good night's rest. Before dismissing them, he provided Sasuke with a pair of contacts from Yuki no Kuni, Land of Snow, that would allow him to use the Sharingan virtually undetected. A sensor shinobi could sense the chakra around his eyes and draw the right conclusion, but to everyone else his eyes would appear the same color as normal. This will allow you to watch for abilities during the Chunin exam for you to copy without anyone realizing you have unlocked your Sharingan. Sasuke nodded his thanks and the team dispersed. The next morning Team 7 arrived at the Chunin exam stadium. The stadium was packed with important nobles, civilians and shinobi. The Chunin exams rotated around the villages on neutral and good terms with Konoha, so for many it had been a while since they had seen the exams. Who the competitors were was also interesting. The three children of the Kazekage were a strong draw of course, but also the clan heir Shikamaru Nara was a favorite from the Konoha group. And with the Hyuga being hailed as the genius of his academy class, the crowd agreed it was sure to be a fascinating Chunin exam finale. Team 7 saw their other classmates at the academy were already there. They exchanged pleasantries and talked about how everyone thought the matches were going to go. The general consensus was that Neji would do really well and that Shikamaru wasn't going to take it seriously. The group was evenly divided on Lee and Tenten. Sasuke knew Lee was going to do great. Not only was his taijutsu speed and strength utterly ridiculous, he had also picked up on other shinobi skills. While he still couldn't mold chakra, Sasuke had taught him the arts of misdirection and subterfuge. The matches were announced again. Temari vs Neji would be up first. It would be followed by Gaara vs Mitsumi. The third match would be Kankuro vs Shikamaru and the fourth match would be Tenten vs Lee. Then the winners in the top bracket, the winners of match 1 and 2 would fight. Then the winners of match 3 and 4 would fight. Then the last two remaining competitors would battle. Winning didn't guarantee a Chunin promotion, but in all but the rarest situation it did result in a Chunin promotion. The genin who lost were also eligible for a promotion if they demonstrated Chunin skills and qualities. Neji and Temari entered into the arena. Hayate Gecko explained the rules or lack of them to the two Chunin hopefuls. Neji activated his dojutsu and announced, "You are a skilled kunoichi, however it is your fate to lose today." Temari narrowed her eyes, "Fate? We'll see about that." Neji shook his head, "This match has already been determined, you cannot win." Temari jumped back and fired a whirlwind from her fan. Neji could see the chakra in the air and easily dodged it. He rushed forward to get in close. Temari continued to step backward and manipulate wind energy with her fan. Neji was forced to dodge to the side to avoid the deadly blasts. However, he methodically got closer and closer. Temari leapt forward, swung with her iron fan, attempting to knock Neji out with a surprise strike. Neji saw it coming and narrowly avoided the strike by ducking. Now he was inside her guard and did a quick strike that closed a tenketsu on Temari's arm. Temari gasped in pain and stepped back and swung her fan again, however this time it was a feint and as Neji dodged she leaped away. Neji gave chase only for Temari to throw a kunai wrapped in an explosive note at the ground at his feet. Neji was slowed again and almost missed the next dodge of Temari's wind jutsu. Neji took a moment to breathe and said, "Close, but you aren't good enough to defeat a genius like me." Temari growled and was tempted to continue the fight. Instead she glanced toward her sensei and her sensei shook his head slightly. Temari called out, "Proctor, I forfeit." Neji was surprised but simply shrugged, "Wise to give in to fate, perhaps you will make Chunin on the strength of your intelligence." Temari couldn't stop herself from rolling her eyes in response. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, something fishy was going on. Temari was nowhere near out of chakra, why did she hold back? Sure, Neji was good, but the girl should have fought. She was literally throwing away any chance of a Chunin promotion before of this. The next match was Gaara vs Mitsumi. Gaara arrived and was ready for the bout, but no one knew where Mitsumi was. The proctor gave him 10 minutes before calling the match a forfeit. The crowd was growing restless and annoyed. The first fight had started great but had an anticlimactic ending, and now the second fight didn't even occur. A masked Anbu approached Kakashi and whispered something to him. Kakashi's one visible eye widened and he responded and then motioned for his genin team to follow him. Something is up. A large group of shinobi was spotted heading toward the village. I'm going to go investigate, but if anything happens here I'm counting on you to defend the Konoha with your full strength. All three genin were shocked. Kakashi had drilled into them the concept of hiding the true abilities from the eyes of the village since day one. Naruto asked, "What's going on, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi responded quietly, "Nothing is certain right now, but my instincts tell me something terrible is going to happen. It involves my mission out of the village. While I trust all of you, there are S-class secrets that I'm not cleared to share. I'm going to investigate along with an Anbu squad and deal with the unknown shinobi. Continue watching the exams and help the remaining Anbu, Jonin and Chunin, if something happens." With that, Kakashi used his Shunshin and was gone. The Anbu were instructed to quietly inform the Jonin to be on guard for a disruption during the Chunin exams. All three genin were uneasy and they deactivated their weight seals. Naruto circumspectly made a dozen shadow clones and disguised them as civilians and started mingling in with the crowds. Their attention went back to the arena as the third match was announced. Kankuro versus Shikamaru was the next match. Shikamaru yawned. Annoyed he would have to compete. Kankuro smirked at the lazy shinobi and said, "Don't worry, you'll soon be taking a very long nap." Shikamaru narrowed his eyes. At first he wasn't going to blame Kankuro for the sins of his brother, but his attitude seemed to show they were cut from the same cloth. "Your brother injured by my best friend. I only have one question. Do you approve of his actions?" The Suna shinobi saw an opportunity to rattle his opponent and said, "Sure, why not? Gaara probably did him a favor. A weakling like that would only get himself killed on a real mission." Shikamaru was fully alert and awake. He sprinted forward and Kankuro instantly went on guard. Kankuro threw a kunai at the charging genin, which Shikamaru batted away. At close range the shadow user sped through his clan's hand seals. Kijime no Jutsu, shadow imitation technique, was spoken in a quiet voice as Nara's shadow raced along the ground and caught Kankuro in it. Shikamaru kept the jutsu in place as Kankuro struggled. Shikamaru grabbed at his shin kunai holster and pulled out a kunai prepared with an explosive tag. Kankuro mimicked the action but had no kunai to draw from there, so his hand was empty. He activated the tag and threw it directly at Kankuro's leg. The blade slashed into the leg and exploded, ripping the leg off. Naruto saw this and whistled, "Remind me never to get Shikamaru mad." He did exactly what was done to Choji. Sasuke shook his head, "That's only his puppet." Naruto did a double take, but sure enough, instead of blood and gore the smoke cleared to show splintered leg pieces of the Suna nin's puppet. The real Kankuro was on the ground and sprang up out of the bandages and threw a poison-tipped kunai at Shikamaru. Shikamaru released his jutsu and deflected the kunai with his own. Kankuro sneered, "I guess you Konoha shinobi are out for revenge, huh? Too bad you released your jutsu." His puppet crow was no longer held by the technique and instantly sprang into action against Shikamaru. Shikamaru cursed and leapt back. He was on the run as poison, kunai and other puppet attacks hounded him. "How troublesome, I regret not training harder now." Shikamaru led the puppet back around toward Kankuro and initiated his jutsu, this time having the shadows seek out two targets. Kankuro saw the tactic and moved away with both the puppet and himself at the same time in opposite directions. As soon as they started to do this, the Nara clan air-sped towards Kankuro. Shikamaru needed to get his jutsu off on the puppet master, not the puppet. Since the puppet master still had to manipulate chakra strings once he was caught, Crow would be done for as well. Now it was a race as Shikamaru rushed to get within range before Crow caught up to him. Nara did the calculations in his head and saw a small window of opportunity and again flashed through the hand signs for the Kijime no Jutsu, shadow imitation technique. Kankuro couldn't quite outrun it due to being close to the wall and having to move perpendicular to the racing shadow. He sped Crow faster and faster and then the shadow reached him. Sasuke sighed, "Shikamaru just lost." Nara breathed a sigh of relief as Crow tumbled to a crash, no longer coming at him. It had stopped just a few feet from him. He was low on chakra, so he would finish him off quickly. As he was drawing a kunai, he felt movement behind him and saw a modified smoke bomb being launched by Kankuro, who had performed a kawarimi with his puppet right before the shadow hit. The smoke bomb was filled with poison and Shikamaru inhaled some and collapsed, his lungs bleeding from the inside. The proctor called the match and a medical team rushed in. Sasuke watched with his Sharingan and then nodded to his teammates. Shikamaru will live, but it will be a few days before he can breathe heavily without strain. Both Sakura and Naruto relaxed. The crowd cheered for the Kazekage's son. It had been an interesting match. Asuma shook his head in disgust and headed after his student. Kurenai grabbed his arm. Asuma, I know you are worried about him, but Kakashi wanted us to be on guard for any trouble. Asuma scowled. Kakashi is paranoid, and nothing is going to happen here. Right now my student needs me and I'm not going to sit around watching for something that won't happen. Asuma had hoped that Shikamaru would have taught the Suna Genin a lesson. While not normally big on revenge, the crippling of his student had hit him hard and he was bitter about it. He also worried about Shikamaru but figured the poison wasn't lethal. But still, it was his job as a sensei to go and be with him now. Naruto itched to wipe the smug grin off of Kankuro's face. Shikamaru had been part of the small group of academy students that had not gone out of their way to pick on him. He and Choji deserved better. Naruto began to subconsciously radiate killing intent and Sasuke grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Naruto shook himself. Naruto hadn't meant to raise his killing intent like that, it had been almost instinctual. That concerned him as Kakashi-sensei had taught him to always be in control. Naruto shook himself. Sorry, I'll watch it. Sakura watched the two boys, they were both tense. She realized she was too. Kakashi really thought something was going to happen and it had them all on edge. The fourth and final part of the first set of matches would be Lee versus Tenten. Lee bowed to his teammate and said, "Let us make our sensei proud and showcase the power of our youth." Tenten had long since become used to Lee and Guy's endless talk of youth and ignored it. She immediately began the fight by hurling waves of shuriken at Lee. Lee dodged with startling speed and smashed a smoke bomb on the ground. Tenten was surprised. Since when does Lee use anything other than taijutsu? Tenten had not spied on her teammate while he was working with Sasuke. She had not expected Lee to use subterfuge when his entire shinobi existence had been to attack directly with strength and speed. She threw more weapons into the smoke but didn't expect them to hit anything. More smoke bombs erupted around the arena, masking it from view. Tenten danced back away from the smoke. She knew she couldn't afford to let Lee get close to her or it would be all over. Tenten never saw the attack coming. She was backing away and did not realize Lee had released his weights and had sped out of the smoke, around the tree line and behind her. Lee wasn't the stealthiest shinobi, but he had been practicing with Sasuke. More importantly was the fact that Tenten never even considered the possibility that Lee would use stealth to get behind her and take her out. Lee smashed an elbow into the base of Tenten's neck, safely and effectively knocking her out. Lee was happy with his victory even though he felt guilty over how he did it. Sasuke had talked to him at length about the purpose of the Chunin exams. If the villagers just wanted the strongest genin to become Chunin, they would guarantee those who made it far enough were made Chunin. But they didn't do it that way. Instead they evaluated the genin based on their skills. Lee was fantastic in a fight, but outside of that he lacked any shinobi arts. If he wanted a promotion, he would need to show the judges that he could plan and outthink his opponent as well as outfight them. His flawless victory even without the use of chakra would be a powerful point in his favor. Lee gave a discreet nod to the stands, a bit away from where Sasuke stood. Sasuke was actually proud of his comrade. The boy was annoying and half mad, but he was eager to learn and had taught Sasuke a lot about taijutsu. Kakashi had made another correct choice with Sasuke's training. Sasuke continued to be impressed with the foresight of his sensei. The next match would be Neji versus Gaara. However, before the contestants arrived, an Anbu approached the third Hokage and whispered an urgent message. Orochimaru, who had the senses to hear the whispered message, cursed and began the invasion earlier than planned. Signaling Kabuto to begin his genjutsu, Orochimaru and the Sound 4 then acted. Sasuke watched in horror as the Hokage was taken captive and pushed to the roof and was then cut off by a barrier created by 4 unknown shinobi. All 3 members of Team 7 felt the genjutsu start to take hold and they instantly shouted, "Kai!" and broke through the jutsu. Around the stadium, civilians, shinobi and samurai guards of the dignitaries started collapsing unconscious. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Multiple shadow clone technique. Instantly over 50 Narutos appeared. They started to fan out looking for threats and using their chakra to snap individuals out of the genjutsu. Sasuke saw an Anbu burn from trying to get through the barrier. Sasuke heard explosions coming from other locations in the village. He quickly asked Naruto to spread some of his clones out in all directions as scouts. Sasuke saw chakra being built up in massive proportions from where the Suna Genin were located. Massive was an understatement, the chakra was immense. The killing intent soared and those who had avoided the sleep-inducing genjutsu trembled with fear. Sasuke had felt Kakashi and Zabuza go with full force, but the combined killing intent paled before this monstrous chakra. Naruto felt a clone dispel. Dozens of Suna shinobi have entered the village and are heading this way. Another cone dispelled. Damn it. Oto shinobi are hitting us too. Naruto shivered under the weight of the chakra and then paused. The chakra was different but familiar. Familiar as in similar to the Kyuubi chakra. Guys, we need to evacuate this place, it's a biju. Sasuke's eyes snapped to Naruto. What? Naruto rapidly explained. Pervy Sage explained that a Jinchuriki can channel the power of the biju, however the risk is letting the biju out. While that releases maximum power, it also means the Jinchuriki has no control. The biju will be nearly unstoppable and probably mad as hell, wanting to kill as many people as it can. Jonin and Anbu were responding to threats from the invading shinobi, others were standing around trying to figure out a way to get the barrier down. Naruto felt another chill go through him as they started to try to organize an evacuation. His most recent clone had popped, the Suna shinobi weren't trying to get into the arena, and they were creating a kill zone around the area preventing anyone from escaping. Naruto made another dozen clones and had them run toward Anbu and Jonin to report the scouting information. He looked at Sakura and Sasuke. In a few minutes that Suna Jinchuriki is going to start slaughtering everyone. Everyone will run and the exits are going to turn into death traps. We have to break the ambush, let's go. Both Sakura and Sasuke nodded and they rushed toward one of the main exits. As they grew close, Sasuke called out warnings of explosive tags buried in the ground under a genjutsu. Naruto created another dozen clones and had them trigger the traps. When they reached the end of them, a hail of kunai hit the clones. The clones had almost as much speed and reflexes as Naruto, so they easily dodged or deflected the majority of the attacks. The clones broke through and were instantly hit by jutsu created by Jonin and Chunin level threats. Very few villages would send Genin against other shinobi, so it was a safe bet that with few exceptions every shinobi they faced would be at least Chunin rank. The clones' opponents were 3 squads at this exit. 2 squads were made up of 3 Chunin with a senior Chunin as the 4th member and leader. The lead squad had a Jonin and 3 Chunin Suna shinobi. Naruto felt most of the clones dispel and relayed the information to his team. Team 7 used the default battle tactic. Naruto created 20 clones and used a henge to disguise them as Sakura and Sasuke. He also added one to look like Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke and Sakura made normal academy clones that had no substance but would confuse the attacks. The clones charged first and then on came Team 7. Another barrage of kunai and shuriken met the clones. This time several of them shouted out, "Futon, Repusho. Wind release, Gale Palm." The clones using the jutsu shoved the weapons back, scattering them in all directions. In some cases they were a threat to the enemy shinobi but no injuries were sustained. One Suna Chunin began using hand seals and launched a futon, Daytopper wind release, great breakthrough, while his comrades ready more projectiles. The stronger directional wind jutsu would disrupt the Repusho technique and allow the projectiles to wreak havoc. Unfortunately for the Suna shinobi, Sasuke saw the attack with Sharingan even as the first part off the hand signs were being used. Sasuke rushed forward and let loose with Kaiten, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release. Great fireball technique, right as the Chunin finished his wind jutsu. Fire beat wind and the Daytopper actually fueled the fire and wind attack in the wrong direction. The Suna squad scattered, however one wasn't quite fast enough and was badly burned on his arm and fell back screaming. Meanwhile Sakura had not been idle. She launched her genjutsu attack on the enemy. Her handles crackled with faux electricity as she created the hand seals at moderate speed, shouting, "Raiten, Mahi, lighting release, paralysis." Her attack was ambitious. It was aimed at the squad that included a Jonin and 3 Chunin. The Jonin saw through the attack, but the 3 Chunin were not so lucky. Naruto's clones instantly streaked forward, katana slashing down at him, going for the kill. The Jonin was a seasoned veteran and saw what was happening and shouted out, "Genjutsu, you aren't paralyzed, move." He defended his squad as best he could, deflecting attacks, interposing himself and using his speed and skill with his kunai to block attacks. He even managed to pop a couple. However, despite his skill, the Naruto clones were striking from too many directions and his subordinates were sitting ducks. One Chunin managed to break the genjutsu just in time, however the other two weren't as lucky. One was decapitated by a blade strike, the second one was stabbed straight through his chest. He coughed blood and died as the clones went after fresh targets. At the same time, the third squad was hoping to make a name for themselves by taking on the legendary copycat shinobi. One Chunin molded his chakra and said, "Doton, Doryuso, Earth Release, Earth Flow Spears." The ground beneath the Naruto clone in a henge of Kakashi suddenly transformed into spikes of stone, ramming straight towards the clone. The clone leapt into the air, avoiding the attack, only for a puppet covered in spikes across his body to erupt from the ground and try to hug him. The clone saw its demise coming and spent its last second throwing kunai at the Chunin attacking him. None caused damage, but it was a small distraction. The clones had thinned out some, but several were still going, and Naruto had to force himself not to smirk and become overconfident. Instead, he made another 20 clones, his chakra reserve still going strong. The Jonin saw that he was creating the clones and went for Naruto himself. Naruto saw him coming and used the body substitution technique with a nearby clone. The Jonin saw through the deception but had to deal with the clone anyway, as it was swinging a katana with tremendous force and speed at his neck. Ducking under the blow, the Jonin snarled and risked a wind jutsu. One opponent had just used a fire release technique, not unexpected in the land of fire, but the speed of his jutsu should allow him to avoid suffering a similar fate. Futon, Shinkua, wind release, vacuum wave was the technique of choice. The experienced Jonin completed the seals faster than the eye could follow. The technique compressed air into a blade that swept itself all around the Suna Jonin. A couple of clones dashed out of the way, but several went down in explosions of smoke. Sakura was at the edge and stepped back and completed her second genjutsu of the fight. This one was targeted solely on the biggest threat, the Jonin. This technique was the one Kurenai had taught her, Magen, Jubakusatsu, demonic illusion, tree biding death. The Jonin saw a tree sprout from the earth and wrap its limbs about him. He knew this was a genjutsu, but it was hard to fight the feeling of bark on skin. He struggled to gather his chakra and release the genjutsu before the caster reached him. Unfortunately for the Jonin, unlike Kurenai, Sakura had no intention of finishing off her opponent personally. No, that was Sasuke's job. He had seen her begin the genjutsu and was already speeding toward his target. Within the moment the Jonin had fallen under the genjutsu, Sasuke was on him and his kunai smashed into the Jonin's back and perforated his heart. Just as the Jonin managed the Kai release to break the genjutsu, he felt his body go limp as he coughed up blood and died. The Suna shinobi were shocked at the unexpected start of the battle. They had been expecting fleeing civilians and panicked shinobi trying to reach safety, fleeing the wrath of an insane demon. Not an organized assault that left 3 of their members dead and 1 badly wounded. The Chunin squad leader signaled the reserve teams stationed in between exits. Backup was needed, and desperately. The battle continued with the clones pressuring the enemy Chunin constantly. Every time they managed to actually dissipate several of them, more would be created. The clone creator was constantly using Kawarimi and Shunshin to keep from being picked out by the enemy. For Sasuke's part, he wrecked the spiked puppet with another fire jutsu and watched for his opportunity to strike. He didn't have long to wait in the chaotic melee of katana-wielding clones and desperate Suna shinobi defending against the deadly effective if straightforward blade attacks. Sasuke was then right there in the midst of 2 Chunin and ripped the throat out of one with a kunai before lashing out with a kick that cracked ribs and threw the Chunin back into a nearby building. Naruto had just finished a Kawarimi and lashed out with his chakra kunai, launching it at the shinobi as he hit the building. The shinobi was stunned from the kick and didn't have time to form chakra or dodge, so he put up an arm that had leather padding and took the blow, seeking to minimize the damage. His eyes widen in pain as the chakra kunai pierced the leather, pierced skin, muscle and shattered bone before crashing through his lower abdomen and cracking the stone building behind him. The Chunin was now in the physical state of shock and was dying. The Oto Shinobi Reserve had seen the signal and dispatched a heavy kill team. 4 Jonin moved out with a second Chunin squad as backup and support. They came across the battlefield, seeing over half of the initial 3 squads decimated. One Oto nin spat, pathetic Suna fools, this is a joke. Naruto sent his clones at the new threats only to watch as the four Jonin shredded them. Jonin level squad incoming, don't engage. Sasuke finished off another puppet, this one had fired poisonous senbon. If it hadn't been for his Sharingan he might have been hit. Glad I'm an Uchiha. Naruto knew this was going to create collateral damage but he didn't have much of a choice. Dealing with the one Jonin hadn't been too taxing but that had been with all three of the squad working together, 4 Jonin threats at the same time would simply be too much. Naruto took a deep breath, bit his thumb and pushed forward with his chakra. Kuchio's no jutsu. Summoning technique, Kakashi raced back to the village proper. He and the Anbu squad had come across 20 shinobi preparing a large summon. Intention clearly not good. Kakashi immediately attacked. Kakashi and the Anbu squad ripped into the 20 shinobi. Kakashi was feared as an S-ranked shinobi for a reason. His speed and strength were among the best in the shinobi world, combining his own innate skill and genius with the Sharingan-made taijutsu battles child's play. Kakashi was also known for his ninjutsu, allowing him to pull the right jutsu at the right time. Needless to say, the enemy didn't know what hit them between an elite Anbu squad and Sharingan no Kakashi. The would-be Konoha attackers were decimated. Kakashi made sure one was alive to be interrogated. He told the Anbu squad, there have to be others, split up and locate the threats. The Anbu squad scattered. Kakashi was glad he had convinced the Hokage to increase the guards around Konoha. Kakashi sensed a dreadful chakra fill the air as he raced back to the village. Oh no, it's the Suna Jinchuriki, it's being released inside the village. It was nearly impossible to stop a transformed Biju. Kakashi increased his speed and hoped his students would survive. Break inside of the arena. The Anbu squad had not been able to breach the barrier around the Hokage. They stopped trying when Gaara completed his transformation into Shukaku. A loud roar tinged with insanity screamed out and the massive form of the Ichibi appeared. Shinobi and civilian alike were stunned at the massive size of the beast. Immediately the civilians that had been awoken by the Naruto clones began fleeing. Kurenai, Guy, Ebisu and Hayate tried to keep the civilians safe by distracting the massive creature. Kurenai attempted a genjutsu that had no effect on the tailed beast. Ebisu massed an army of Bunshin in an attempt to distract the creature. Even though they were perfectly created, the Ichibi ignored the images. Hayate used his blade on one of the demon's legs, but outside of dispersing some sand it had minimal effect. Guy was the only one who actually drew the beast's attention. Guy used the gate of opening to increase his strength and kicked the beast across its facial features. The kick would have shattered any rock, and while it did dissipate a huge amount of sand, it was just a tiny fraction of the whole. Shukaku roared and tried to slam one of his limbs on the green-clad Jonin. Guy flipped out of the way of the massive paw and then dashed forward, delivering a flying kick into the sand. The great beast was momentarily distracted as it shouted out, "I'm going to crush you like a bug." Guy was now the focus on its attention, which even for a taijutsu master like Maito Guy was not something that could be endured for long. Guy dodged the massive attacks as Shukaku roared, "Hold still, you ant." Shukaku breathed in deeply and pounded on his own stomach to unleash a futon, Renkuden wind release, drilling air bullet, at Guy. Guy leapt away from the attack, however it shattered the ground with such force that the backblast of earth, rock and force sent Guy slamming into the arena stands with bone-shattering force. Guy couldn't afford to be slowed by his injuries or the Ichibi would kill him in one blow, so he instantly used the gate of healing to re-energize his body. The Ichibi liked the destruction it had caused with his futon, Renkuden wind release, drilling air bullet, and this time did it again, firing indiscriminately all around the stands. The death and destruction were immense and the screaming cacophony added to the confusion. The civilians, samurai guards, dignitaries and genin trying to escape the monstrous attacks. They raced for the exits. Team 7 had cleared the way of the buried explosive tags in one of the main exits, but in the others death awaited them. The first group who reached the exit died from explosions, the ones right behind them tried to stop only to be trampled by the others behind them. A band of Chunin tried to get out in front and deal with the enemy shinobi blocking the path, but the civilians were in the way. It was a slaughterhouse. Guy sprang back at the demon, determined to keep it from killing any more civilians. Ebisu for his part used smoke bombs and aimed them at the head of the monster, trying to blind it. Hayate yelled at Kurenai, "We have to clear the exits of the enemy forces or all the civilians are going to die." Kurenai rushed toward one of the exits. In the stands there were shinobi who had training and skill, and they also began to fight back at the blockades held by the Suna and Oto Nin. One of those individuals was Hyashi Hyuga, who had acted as soon as the genjutsu started. He had grabbed Hanabi and rushed over to where the genin had congregated to watch the fight and ordered Hinata to follow him. At the exit he saw the civilians rush in and trigger the explosive tags. He rushed to the front, and when the Suna shinobi unleashed wind jutsu and projectiles, he responded with chitin spinning and knocking all of the attacks aside. Knowing his two daughters were on the line, he rushed forward, determined to annihilate all that soon in his path. Meanwhile, Guy's students tried to also help distract the Biju. Tenten unleashed her most powerful attack, Soshoryu, twin rising dragons, at Shukaku. Much to her chagrin, the monster seemed utterly unfazed. Lee opened up the first gate and, like his sensei, let with a powerful kick that displaced sand. Like his teammates' results, it failed to attract much attention. Neji chose a dangerous course of action and ran up the great tail and then unleashed chitin right at what appeared to be a sandy joint. Get off of me. It turned in a circle, slamming his tail in a wide arc. Neji was thrown off and was hanging in the air about to be struck down when his sensei leapt and grabbed him away from the tail that had just completed its rotation. Guy charged again, activating the third gate and turning his skin red. With the enhanced power and speed, he began a rapid blur of punches and kicks that individually didn't do much damage but were rapidly shredding one of its sandy limbs. He called out to his team to get back. With a roar of rage, the Ichibi tried to crush the taijutsu master. Guy dashed away ahead of the attack and immediately countered, smashing more sand away from the main body. The Ichibi became more enraged at the tiny green bug that would not be squished and started rampaging after it, ignoring the rest of the combatants. Lee could only watch in awe as his sensei almost single-handedly protected the rest of the village from the rampaging beast. Break Naruto's summoning jutsu went off without a hitch. The massive toad Gameiken had heeded his call. The charge of the four Oto Jonin was halted in its tracks. Their instant thought was that the legendary Sannin Jiraiya was nearby, about to attack from hiding. Their hesitation gave Naruto a few moments to explain what was happening to Gameiken. I'll do my best, the giant toad rumbled and swept his Sasumata at the Oto shinobi. Despite Gameiken's earlier protests of being clumsy, it was far from the truth. The speed and power of the blow were impressive, however these were Jonin threats and they were able to dodge. At least the first strike they were able to dodge. Gameiken shoved his weapon again and again at him. Because of its size, at times the Jonin would have to become airborne. That's when Gameiken struck with true killing power. One Jonin was smashed in the chest, instantly killing him. Another one was clipped hard on the shoulder, causing it to be ripped out of its socket painfully. Naruto atop Gamken's head created a batch of 10 clones. At this point his chakra reserves were starting to deplete after repeated uses of the Cage Bunshin and the massive amount spent on Gameiken. However, the clones were a deadly distraction to the two remaining healthy Jonin. The Jonin unleashed a lighting jutsu that Naruto instantly reacted with a powerful futon, Daytopper, wind release, great breakthrough. Though the Jonin's attack was of higher rank than Naruto's C-rank jutsu, the wind jutsu was the natural counter to lighting and the attack was ended before it could be a threat. The other Jonin attacked Gameiken with explosive tags attached to a brace kunai thrown at the toad's feet. Gameiken leapt into the air, avoiding the attack, and came crashing down on the middle of the Chunin support squad. 3 of the Chunin were able to get away, but the 4th was crushed by the debris that flew in all directions from the landing. Sasuke saw his opportunity and signaled Sakura. They and 2 of Naruto's clones headed toward where the Chunin support squad had scattered to. The 2 Jonin were not sure how to take on such a large opponent. Even if they had hit with their jutsu and exploding tags, it likely would have only dealt minor injuries. As they tried to formulate a plan, they were harassed by the Naruto clones who were throwing kunai, dashing forward with katana strikes and generally making life difficult. They couldn't take the time to properly deal with the clones as the massive Sasumata twirled and moved like it was alive, seeking to end their existence. Sakura again used Magen, Genkaku Mahi, demonic illusion, illusionary paralysis. Since these opponents were fresh, they thought it was a lightning attack and failed to detect it was a genjutsu. Sasuke buried a kunai in each of their throats and turned to the last one who had rushed forward with a taijutsu attack. Sasuke wasn't able to resist the temptation like Naruto had. He smirked at the Chunin and fought back using his Sharingan. The Chunin would have been outclassed even without the Sharingan thanks to Sasuke's near-flawless taijutsu forms and his incredible speed and strength. With the Sharingan included, the fight lasted seconds and ended with Sasuke snapping his opponent's neck. Sasuke and Sakura sprang back toward the exit of the arena and away from the two remaining Jonin who were being driven away by Gameiken and Naruto. At that moment, a mass of people rushed out of the exit. Unlike the other exits that had turned into death traps, this one was clear and the people were swiftly running away. The two Jonin didn't even try to carry on with the plan. It was useless, they wouldn't be able to beat the summon. They nodded to each other and used their shunshin to go report for additional orders. Naruto directed the majority of his surviving clones to shadow the civilians as they made their way to the shelters in case any additional attacks occurred along the way. A couple of the genin were shocked to see the bodies of fallen Suna and Oto shinobi all over the place, and the ones responsible for it as Team 7, the team that hadn't even been granted access to the Chunin exams. And Naruto of all people appeared to be the one who had summoned Gameiken based on the fact that he was riding atop the toads ahead. Kiba came to a dead stop and just stared slack-jawed. He was jostled by the people around him, and that made him pick up his feet and continue moving. Team 7 wasn't sure what to do next. Should they remain here and guard the exit? Should they get into the arena and help with the Jinchuriki? Should they help clear the other exits? They could see fighting breaking out at the other exit points of the arena. Sasuke and Sakura climbed up Gameiken to meet with Naruto and plan. Sasuke started, "We should help clear the other exits. That place is a death trap right now." Naruto hesitated, "But while we are here we can guarantee that at least one place is safe for evacuation." Sakura could see both points of view but thought they should seek out orders from one of the Jonin. When Sakura said as much, Sasuke shook his head. "Sakura, the Jonin don't know the full extent of our abilities. We'll be regulated to helping people get to the shelter." Gameiken stirred beneath them. "I'll hold this place if you need me to." Sasuke looked at Naruto. "Well then, let's go kill our enemies." Naruto felt that Sasuke was a bit too overeager to finally be fighting outside of the watchful eye of Kakashi-sensei, but in this case it was the right decision to make. As the three descended from Gameiken, Naruto asked, "How are you guys doing on chakra?" Sakura responded, "I've used about 2/3 of my chakra." Sasuke shrugged, "I haven't used much ninjutsu, I'm fine." Naruto said, "I'm not doing well on chakra myself. I can probably create one more batch of clones and get off one more jutsu and then I'm on empty." Gameiken eats up a lot. Team 7 raced toward an entrance with heavy fighting. That entrance happened to be the one where Hiashi was attempting to clear by himself. The Hyuga clan head had made a good start killing several of the Chunin threats, however his Jonin opponent had picked up on his desire to keep his family safe and was directing attacks in their direction. The crowd itself kept trying to push forward despite the battle, which put his daughters in danger. Several times he had to put himself in the path of an attack and rely on Kaiten instead of taking out threats. The rapid use of Kaiten over and over was badly winding him, and the Suna and Oto squad sensed blood in the air. Hinata was doing her best to keep the crowd back and her sister safe. Normally she had crippling shyness, but if she didn't stop the crowd they would die horribly. She found her courage and shouted at them to stop and physically pushed back some of them who still tried to come on. Hanabi screamed as a fire jutsu roared at her, only for Hiashi once more interposed himself. This time his Kaiten was a fraction too slow to begin and his arm was scorched. Hinata was convinced she was about to watch her father die when Team 7 arrived. At first Hinata wanted to scream at Naruto to get away, but the one Naruto turned into a dozen and Sasuke and Sakura streamed in behind him. Half of the remaining Chunin turned to face the new threat. The Naruto clones dashed forward and threw kunai ahead of them. Then they drew the katana and sliced forward faster than expected. One Chunin went down to a katana through the belly that was followed up by Sakura's kunai taking his eye. The Chunin counter-attacked. Another puppet user had a puppet that fired senbon needles out of its arms. Sasuke stepped forward in front of his teammates and batted away the majority of the senbon with his Sharingan-enhanced reflexes. A couple of clones dissipated into smoke, but the rest got revenge on the puppet and tore it to shreds with their blades. Naruto dodged away from a Chunin with a scimitar. With his chakra depleted he pulled out his katana and desperately blocked the lightning fast strikes. Here Naruto's lack of skill with the blade was impacting him. It was only his superior speed and defensive approach that kept him alive. However, Naruto had the advantage of a team that worked together. Sakura saw Naruto's difficulty and immediately blocked the descending scimitar with her kunai. Naruto had seen her move and knew his next action instinctually. Instead of trying to block the scimitar racing for his chest, he ignored it and launched his own attack. The enemy shinobi's blade was blocked by Sakura's kunai and he wouldn't be able to use it to defend himself. Instead, Naruto's blade nearly skewered him if it wasn't for his quick side step. As it was, the unexpected attack caused him to be on his back foot and Naruto pressed his advantage, clanging down with superior strength. The Suna shinobi felt his arm growing numb and tried to escape the fight, but Sakura had moved around opposite of him. He called out for help from his companions, but they busy dealing with the clones, the Hyuga clan head and Sasuke. Caught between the two of them, the shinobi tried to rush through a kawarimi, but at the last instant Naruto's katana sliced open his torso. He appeared 15 feet away with a gash across his chest and promptly keeled over, bleeding out. Sasuke shouted, "Kaiten, Kiryu Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet," and unleashed a Kaiten jutsu which allowed him direct the flames towards multiple opponents. While only one Chunin was burned, all of them and the Jonin had to move to avoid it. This gave the Hyuga clan head a much-needed opportunity to drive forward and go to work with his gentle fist style. Hinata was amazed at what she was seeing. Team 7 had struck forcefully and the tide had been turned in less than a minute. The idea that another genin team could have such an impact was shocking. The enemy squads called in for backup, not realizing that their backup had already been called to the other exit Team 7 had just come from. The Suna Jonin cursed and beat a retreat as he saw another two Chunin under his command have their internal organs liquefied by the Hyuga. With no reinforcements in the vicinity, it was a lost cause. Break elsewhere in the village, the leaf was beginning to strike back. The famous Ino Shikacho combination of the previous generation had reunited and wreaked havoc on the invading forces. Jiraiya had summoned his own massive toad atop the one snake summon that had been successfully unleashed. Chunin squads were beginning to take back control over the breached areas and pressured the Oto and Suna invading forces. While other shinobi villages talked about teamwork, Konoha lived it. The only area of concern was what was happening in the arena. The Hokage was still trapped by the barrier jutsu and there was a rampaging Biju who was turning the arena into a wasteland. The Leaf forces had just now managed to break the stranglehold on the exits around the arena, but the casualties for the civilians who had tried to flee were horrendous. The Ichibi was focused on crushing the green fly who kept stinging him with brutal kicks and punches that would have turned a normal beast into a broken mess. The Ichibi was a demon and the sand continually reformed any wounded appendages. Guy pushed his body further and opened the gate of limit, the fifth gate. Guy had to be careful of the destructive energies the gates would do to his body. Guy's strikes were tearing through the sand in massive bursts and the Ichibi was becoming more and more enraged and more desperate to squash the green bug. It began gathering black and white chakra to use the Bijudama-tailed beast ball, that would literally obliterate the ground beneath his feet and obliterate the fly. Guy was desperate to stop the attack. While the evacuation now going well, it was not complete and the blast would surely kill everyone and destroy everything nearby. Guy opened up the sixth gate, the Gate of View. Guy's skin rippled with energy and he dashed up one of the limbs of the great beast and unleashed Asa Kujaku, Morning Peacock. A blistering barrage of punches smashed into the Ichibi. Flames fanned into the air from the sheer friction of the attack as sand parted like water before a tornado. The Biju stumbled back from the explosive force and the black and white chakra dissipated. But the beast was not yet defeated. The fearsome aspect of the Ichibi is that it repaired damage swiftly. Guy had pushed his body to the brink and kept on going, but soon the damage to his skin and flesh would take him out of the fight. No one else in the arena had the power or the strength to deal with this threat. Guy contemplated making the ultimate sacrifice and opening up the last two gates. Before he could do that, Kakashi arrived on the scene. Kakashi had done his research ever since Naruto had spotted Gaara in the village prior to the Chunin exams. He knew that the Jinchuriki of the desert unleashed the full Biju power by going to sleep. By attacking the host, the demon could be defeated. Kakashi rushed next to Guy and said, "Keep him busy a little longer, I'll put it down." Kakashi then used the Shunshin to move away from Guy and the smashing sand appendage that was aimed at him. Guy dodged and gave Kakashi a big thumbs up and a nice guy grin before returning his full attention to staying alive. Kakashi raced along the body of the Ichibi. Kakashi's focus was intense, but he almost missed his opportunity as he saw the barrier dissipate and a wound Orochimaru flee the scene. The third Hokage lay still and unmoving on the roof, but Kakashi suppressed his horror and raced toward the red-headed boy from Suna. Shukaku was still focusing on smashing the green pest whose attacks had started to pain it so much that he ignored the threat of another ant crawling up his body. That proved to be a pivotal mistake as Kakashi pulled in chakra into his palm and unleashed his Reikiri, lightning blade, think Chidori but better, into Gaara's skull. The blade had pierced the sand around the boy like it wasn't even there. The violent assassination jutsu did its job and obliterated Gaara's head. Shukaku screamed in frustration and then dissipated. Death was not final for Biju, but it would take years for the creature to reform. After dealing with the Jinchuriki, Kakashi rushed to where the Hokage has fallen. Kakashi checked for signs of life and saw that there were none. Kakashi wanted to mourn his fallen leader. He was a man who he didn't always agree with, but one that he could not help but admire. But he had to make sure his team was safe, that his village was safe. Only then could he mourn. Murder flashed within his eyes. Orochimaru was gone, but the Suna and Oto shinobi were still in the village, and surrender wasn't going to be an option when Kakashi got to them. The damage to Konohagakure was great. Chief among the dead was the beloved third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi. The legendary god of shinobi was a stable rock that the leaf had taken comfort in. And now that rock had been shattered. All of the leaf mourned. Some cried, some became depressed, and some were angry. It had been one of their own who had done the deed, Orochimaru. The list of casualties was quite long. Primarily it had been civilians, both foreign and domestic, who had died in the arena, but the shinobi causalities also affected the leaf. Primarily it had been Genin and Chunin who had suffered, but a couple of Jonin had also died. Others had their shinobi careers ended due to injuries. Ebisu had been severely injured, but with time he would return to the active duty roster. His face, however, would always be scarred from taking the point-blank fire jutsu. The immediate need was to select a new Hokage. Since Hiruzen did not leave a chosen successor, it would be up to the Greater Konoha Council to select one. Technically speaking, the Fire Daimyo would appoint someone based on their recommendation, but the true power in the Land of Fire were its shinobi. And even with the Fire Daimyo's recommendation, it had to be ratified by the village Jonin. The Fire Daimyo was not without ability to manipulate the shinobi. Withholding funds and missions were within his power, but the Land of Fire had a cordial relationship between the Daimyo and the hidden village, so this was unlikely. Put simply, whoever the Konoha Council chose, assuming the Jonin would ratify him, would be selected. The council had a few choices. Some were in favor of Danzo, primarily the old guard. He was a seasoned veteran and had almost been chosen once before. Danzo was not trusted by all and was actively disliked by some of the Leaf's most powerful shinobi, so his chances were not looking good. With Jiraiya speaking out against Danzo, it was highly unlikely he could gather the necessary support. The next potential candidate was Kakashi Hatake, an S-class shinobi with a mission success rate equal to none. While some had been irritated at him for pulling the wool over their eyes about his team's strength, it could be forgiven given how effective he had made his team. The problem with Kakashi was that he didn't want the hat and had made it clear he would refuse it if offered. The most favored candidate was Jiraiya, the legendary Toad Sage. He was the third Hokage's student and was considered the most powerful shinobi in the village. Unfortunately, he also didn't want to take the hat, but he did have a plan. Kakashi, Jiraiya, and the full Konoha Council gathered to discuss who should be the next Hokage, as well as what needed to happen immediately for the security of the village. The full council consisted of the clan heads, the honored elders, and the Jonin commander, who in this case also represented his clan. Kakashi spoke, selecting a Hokage is of critical importance, however in the interim we need to deal with has occurred. Our village was assaulted by Otogakure and Sunagakure. It has weakened us and makes us a tempting target for Kumo and Iwa. Shikaku Nara, the Jonin commander, responded, we have tightened security as much as we can. Jonin are regularly joining the normal Chunin patrols. Any aggression will be detected immediately. Kakashi inclined his head, good, but something more must be done. We must teach our enemies that Konoha cannot be attacked with impunity. Destroy Oto and make Suna pay for its betrayal. Sume Inuzuka, the clan head of the Inuzuka, growled in agreement. I'll support that. Are you campaigning for my vote, Kakashi? Kakashi glowered at her briefly. I told everyone earlier I should not be the Hokage. I am needed in the field and I have my students to train. Sensing another potential derailment, Jiraiya spoke up, we are in no position to strike back. If Iwa or Kumo decide to take advantage of our current state, it would be fatal if we had shinobi en route to fight another village. And why Suna? They were tricked by Orochimaru. Because they attacked us, Kakashi retorted. They raised that monster and used it on our village. The plan was bloodthirsty. It was designed to cause maximum death, not simply defeat and conquer us, but to massacre as many people as possible. Their willing contribution demands retaliation. Shikaku shook his head. Even if you're right, Kakashi-san, we still don't have the manpower to make that a reality. I'm not talking about invasion. Send me and my team to Suna and give us free rein. Suna won't recover for a generation. The council murmured at this. Kakashi sounded confident and more than a little cold. Jiraiya looked concerned. He would have expected such bloodthirsty talk from Danzo, not from Kakashi. Jiraiya stood from his chair. Kakashi, enough. All of us are angry at Suna, but they aren't a threat at this time. Sound could be, and Kumo and Iwa may be. We need to focus on defense first. Kakashi looked Jiraiya dead in the eye. Punishing Sunagaku will act as a deterrent to the other hidden villages. If we have a strong Hokage that could deter threats as well, but if we dawdle in our selection, Jiraiya's eyes widened. That convening little brat, he wants to force me to take the hat. I never should have told him about my plan to bring back Tsunade. Shikaku saw some sort of interplay between the two S-class shinobi and tried to figure out what was going on. His mind had already thought about half a dozen potential scenarios, but without more information it would be impossible to tell what kind of game was being played. Danzo spoke up. Hitaki-san makes a valid point. We must strike back at those who defiled the sanctity of our home. I have the resolve to see this done. Hiashi Hyuga looked at Kakashi and wondered what the man was up to. He knew Kakashi didn't want Danzo as the Hokage. Why then was he towing the old Warhawk's position? Danzo's pronouncement was a bold challenge, and as of yet no one had taken it up. Jiraiya was the first to respond. No, Danzo, sensei was clear that you should not become the Hokage. Jiraiya paused for dramatic effect before continuing. Who better than a Sannin? Who better than an apprentice of the Sandaime to carry out his legacy? The council grew excited. If Jiraiya wanted the hat, he would get it. Jiraiya stared out steadily at the council. Who better than the granddaughter of the first Hokage? Tsunade Senju. Koharu, one of Hiruzen's honored advisors, raised her voice. She abandoned the village. She is not fit to be Hokage. The assembled clan heads were of mixed opinion. The name Senju was highly regarded. Even if Tsunade had not assisted the Leaf in the last decade, she had served honorably in the last great shinobi war. And none doubted her strength. Jiraiya stared down Koharu. Tsunade is the world's best medical nin. Her power in a fight is my equal. Our enemies would not dare attack a village with two of the Sannin in it. He glanced over to Kakashi. There is your deterrent against further action. Kakashi snorted. Pretty speech, Jiraiya-sama, but if they dared attack when the third Hokage, you, myself and Guy were here, adding Tsunade as a replacement for the Sandaime is hardly convincing. Jiraiya ground his teeth in frustration. Kakashi was messing with plan. What Kakashi said made sense, but he could have convinced the clan council with the passion of his words. Kakashi's cold logic and calculated derision of his statement had shattered the momentum he had been building. Jiraiya sensed a trap but couldn't help it. Then what do you suggest, Kakashi? Kakashi gave him an ice smile. I'm willing to have Tsunade lead us, but she's been away for a decade. There is no guarantee she will accept, and then we will back to where we started. He looked around the council. Select a Hokage now in case Tsunade does not return. Whoever that candidate will be Hokage if Tsunade doesn't return in a predetermined time. Jiraiya blinked. And who are you recommending, Kakashi? Kakashi looked at his sensei and spoke. I think you said it best. Who better than a Sannin? Either you or Tsunade. Jiraiya grumbled to himself and looked around the room. He supposed he had gotten what he wanted. With Kakashi's backing he would bring in much of the Jonin support. If he could convince Tsunade to come home and take the hat, all would be well. However, if Tsunade refused, it would have to be him. Very well, I will be the Hokage if I cannot convince Tsunade to return. But he was going to have words with Kakashi afterwards. The few survivors of the Suna contingent had almost made it back to Sunagaku. They had learned of the fate of Gaara and had also learned that very few of their comrades had been taken prisoner. Baki led the dispirited group. They had been tricked by Orochimaru, their Kazekage was dead and the best shinobi killed. His student Temari was taking everything particularly hard. Her brother tried to cheer her up. Temari, I know losing father and so many of our comrades is hard, but at least we don't have to worry about Gaara anymore. Temari snapped her head around and looked at Kankuro. Rage filled her eyes, followed by hot tears. He was our brother. None of this was his fault. He was driven insane by that demon and you don't care. And now he's dead and he will always be remembered as a monster. And you're happy about that. You're the monster. Kankuro wasn't sure what surprised him more. That his sister's calm and confident self-control had been so utterly shattered, or her impassioned defense of Gaara. Gaara had been a monster, he had threatened them with death countless times and they had lived in terror of his wrath. Regardless of who deserved the blame, the simple fact was that his reign of terror over them had ended. Kankuro turned away from his sister. She wasn't going to listen to reason at this moment. Temari knelt down and sobbed. He was our baby brother and we couldn't protect him. He didn't deserve his life. No one could deserve the hell he was put through. Kankuro snapped, and we didn't deserve the hell our lives have been because of him. Damn it, Temari, you want me to feel sorry for him? How many people did he kill without thinking twice? Temari shuddered and wrapped her arms around herself. Just leave me be. Let me mourn my brother. Kankuro snarled. He had been trying to do just that. He stalked away, leaving his sister alone. Baki kept the column moving but stopped a half-mile away, giving Temari privacy but allowing her to catch up easily once she regained control. The weather Jonin could give her that much at least. Break Orochimaru hissed with pain, cursing his useless arms. He was angry that he had suffered such an injury at the hands of his sensei. He was furious that Konoha had withstood his attack. He was enraged that Kabuto had utterly failed his function as a spy. Kabuto, you told me that Sasuke was an inferior specimen. That he had failed to unlock the Sharingan and that he was a complete waste of time. Kabuto knelt before his master and apologized. Forgive me, Lord Orochimaru. Kakashi was able to trick me and all of Konoha about Sasuke's abilities. Orochimaru wanted to kill his foolish servant for failing so completely, but he knew that he needed him. And despite his failure, he was still very useful to him. Orochimaru subsided for the moment. I want Sasuke, I need his Sharingan. Lord Orochimaru, that will be difficult. Sharingan no Kakashi can defeat me, and without your arms he may be a threat to you. Kakuku, then we'll just have to repair my arms. Then Sasuke will be mine. Break Kakashi did not have much time for his students. He informed Naruto to help as much as he could with the repairs with his cage bunshin and then to train with the rest of his team. Part of the training was to analyze each of the battles they faced and look at what worked and what could have been more efficient. Team 7 dutifully carried out this task, with Naruto and Sasuke clashing sometimes on what would have been the better strategy. Sakura had to struggle not to roll her eyes. Boys, she thought to herself. Sakura was called on to be a tiebreaker. That at least was nice. Sakura understood why Kakashi was having them do this, but in reality she was still in awe of what they had accomplished. As genin, they had taken on a dozen shinobi more experienced than they were. Then they helped face an additional 8 shinobi, half of which were jonin in rank. After driving them back, they went on into another fight and saved the Hyuga clan head and his daughters. As genin, Sakura shivered. The village were talking about them in awed whispers. They were being heralded as this generation's Sannin. Was she worthy of their respect? Could she ever compare herself to Tsunade as a kunoichi? Sakura focused back on the discussion/debate that was occurring between Naruto and Sasuke. Sakura put her foot down. All right. Kakashi asked us to analyze the battle and we've done it twice now. Are you ready to actually get some training in, or are you all secretly part of the Nara clan? Naruto laughed and Sasuke responded with a HNN. Sakura brandished a kunai. No clones allowed. Come get me, you two. Sakura leapt away and the chase was on. Sakura dropped a smoke bomb and layered a genjutsu that showed her leaping away from them out of the smoke cloud. Naruto chased after, but Sasuke saw through the genjutsu and entered the smoke. Sakura leaped back and away as Sasuke came in fast. Sasuke began to chase and Sakura bounded from tree to tree. She heard Naruto's loud, "Damn it," and couldn't help but laugh. Sasuke fired Raiten, Shoku, lighting release, jolt, at Sakura's back, but she had felt the chakra gathering and had used the substitution technique, freeing herself from harm. She saw Naruto come back into the field and shouted out, "Naruto, she's using a genjutsu to look like me and me to look like her." Sasuke did a double take as Naruto careened toward him. A fierce taijutsu battle ensued for the next few seconds until Naruto realized Sakura didn't fight like his current opponent. He backed up and Sasuke cursed, "Dobe." Sakura meanwhile had fled deeper into the wooded area. Most of her genjutsu wouldn't work on Sasuke, so she made Naruto her target. She took the most direct route and tagged one of the limbs with an explosive seal. It exploded well before her pursuers arrived, but now they didn't have that tree limb to push off of, forcing them to use a less efficient route. Sakura taunted them as they chased. It's 2-on-1, how hard can this be? Sasuke powered chakra into his souls and rocketed forward. Sakura dropped another smoke bomb, obscuring her and Sasuke from Naruto's view. She called out, this time she did it for real, Naruto. Naruto paused. He wasn't going to fall for it again. Naruto believed Sakura didn't actually use a genjutsu. He should go after the one that looked like Sakura. Sakura most think I'm an idiot. Well, I'll show her, wait a second. She knows I won't fall for the same trick twice, so this time she did use a genjutsu hoping to fool me. As soon as Naruto saw Sasuke, who he thought was Sakura, he sent a flying kick at him. Sasuke blocked the kick, but it knocked him off course and sent him tumbling into a tree. DOBE, Sasuke yelled at Naruto as Sakura began speeding away again. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Ugh, not again, I'm just going to release my chakra before doing anything when I face her. Naruto decided to do so now just in case, and his chakra was pushed out. However, nothing changed, so he was fairly certain he was not in a genjutsu. Sasuke and Naruto chased back after Sakura. In Sasuke's tumble, he had lost track of Sakura for an instant. While his dojutsu was nearly impossible to get away from, as long as he kept someone in line of sight, if the target crossed outside of his vision he could lose track. However, both he and Naruto could see the damaged foliage and slightly damaged bark from Sakura pushing off with chakra. They heard Sakura's voice form up ahead. The Great Toad Summoner and the last Uchiha Shaw are taking a long time dealing with one little Kunoichi. They pushed forward, listening to more taunts. Sasuke's Sharingan swept around and then he paused. Sakura's tracks were gone, but her voice was still coming. Naruto saw Sasuke slow and immediately shouted, Kai, and released his chakra. Sasuke twitched. Would you stop doing that? Naruto countered, do you want to get kicked again? I don't have cheating eyes to help me see through her genjutsu. Cheating eyes. It is the honorable dojutsu of my clan. It is not cheating. Naruto smirked at his riled-up comrade. Well, lead the way then, cheater. Sasuke backtracked to where he had last seen disturbed bark and concentrated. Clever Sakura, she stopped using chakra altogether and landed behind that tree. I can tell from the few slightly bent blades of grass that she went on foot. She couldn't have gone far if she's not using chakra to speed herself. Sasuke had picked her trail and Naruto followed him. Every now and then he heard a Kai from behind him and he felt his eye spasm. Damn it, I will not pick up my sensei's facial tic. I refuse. Sakura saw the two coming and tossed another smoke bomb. Naruto used the Shunshin to race inside the smoke and shouted, Futon, Repusho, Wind Release, Gale Palm. This immediately dissipated the smoke and Sasuke surged forward towards Sakura. Sakura dodged the first few strikes, but Sasuke was sending punches at a rapid rate, abusing his superior speed. Sakura was forced to back up. Naruto shouted, Kai, one more time and then leapt down after them. Sakura was in a bad spot in between the two of them and used Kawarimi to swap places with a log. However, she wasn't quite fast enough and Sasuke hit her with a knife hand strike to her ribs, which bruised them before she was able to replace herself. Up atop the tree she grunted in pain. Naruto raced along the ground after her and Sasuke charged up the tree. Holding her side, Sakura leapt away, aiming for a nearby tree. A chakra blade whizzed underneath her and cut through the limb completely. This meant her landing spot was gone. She was in for a hard landing. Quickly she took a kunai that had ninja wire threaded in it, launched it at another tree so she could swing around without crashing into the forest floor. Sasuke saw the speed and trajectory of Sakura's swing and met her halfway in mid-air. With her momentum forced in one direction, Sakura could only block, and the bone-jarring force of Sasuke's punch forced her guard down. His other arm rushed forward with a kunai and gently sliced her shoulder, calling an end to the impromptu spar. If he had wanted to, it could have been a kill strike, and they all knew it. Sakura dropped down and brushed off her hands. Naruto eyed the two of them and put his hands together and shouted, Kai. Sakura's mouth quirked. Then a giggle escaped. Then a laugh, and soon she was clutching her side. After having faced so much death, the loss of their Hokage and all the negative emotions that came with it, she couldn't help but now laugh Naruto's antics. Her laughter proved infectious and Sasuke, despite himself, chuckled. Naruto growled at them before giving in and also laughing. It had been the first time Naruto had laughed since the death of his Gigi. He would always miss the old man, but he knew he had a place in the world. His circle of precious people had now gone beyond the old man, a small ramen stand and Aruka. He had friends his own age, ones who he could laugh with. Ones who had his back just as he had theirs. He hoped that wherever the old man was now he could see that Naruto was going to be all right. Jiraiya spoke privately with Kakashi when the others left. What the hell was that? Kakashi responded, by phrasing the discussion in the way I did, it left no doubt that a Sannin would be chosen. This froze all other candidates out of the running, guaranteeing that Danzo or someone else was not selected. Jiraiya threw up his hands. That wasn't necessary, I was just building up my charismatic plea for Tsunade being the Hokage. Kakashi shrugged, my way was better, now there will be no fruitless speculation about who will be the Hokage if Tsunade doesn't return. Our energies can be put to more productive uses. Jiraiya frowned, she will return. Maybe, but she's acted like trash for the last 10 years, I don't think that's going to change. Watch it, boy, Tsunade is my teammate and I won't listen to you badmouth her. Kakashi sighed, your loyalty to your comrade is commendable, but objectively speaking she has abandoned you and the Leaf. If she wasn't Hiruzen's student she would have been recalled or made a missing nin. It was a foolish waste to not have her in the village. The Toad Sage clicked his tongue, Kakashi, she's given everything to the village and it's brought her nothing but despair. She deserved some time away from death and misery. And the Sandaime didn't deserve to die that way. Maybe if she'd been here that wouldn't have happened. Enough. Jiraiya forced himself not to attack Kakashi. That last comment had been a low blow. He looked at Kakashi. Even without the mask he doubted he would be able to read him. You never do anything without a reason. What are you driving at, Kakashi? The younger Jonin waited before responding. I'm not convinced Tsunade will make a good Hokage. I'd prefer if you returned unsuccessful and took up the hat. Your spy network is run personally, however it can be built along different lines in the future. If by some unlikely chance Tsunade agrees to return, you should reconsider making her Hokage. Let her run the Konoha medical program. You inherited your sensei's will of fire, not her. I'll bring her back and she will be Hokage, that's all there is to it. Jiraiya saw Kakashi turn to leave and he stopped him. Wait, Kakashi, there are two other issues. Kakashi quirked an eyebrow and waited. You seem upset with Suna and you are priming the rest of the Leaf for action against Sunagakure with your talk at the meeting, why? Kakashi considered his response and finally decided to go with the truth. Sunagakure is weaker than ever before. The Kazekage was killed along with his elite Anbu guard. They lost a minimum of 1/3 of their entire Chunin force and close to half of their Jonin. Outside of one elder there is no one considered S-rank within Suna. Jiraiya glared, all the more reason that attacking them would be a waste of time. They aren't a threat to us now. They are weak, which makes the attack very likely to work. My plan will cripple Suna for a generation. They will lose their status as being one of the 5 great hidden villages. That is the message that would be sent. Attack Konoha and your village will suffer irreparable harm. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. Kakashi made sense from a cold-hearted perspective. The Toad Sage did not like it. All this counterattack would fan the flames of hatred for another generation. And what of Otogakure? Jiraiya countered. They are most responsible. Orochimaru is the mastermind. Success is less likely. We don't have intelligence on all of Orochimaru's hidden bases. We don't know how strong he is. Even weakened he is still more formidable than anyone in Suna. And most importantly, destroying a no-name village will mean nothing to Iwa and Kumo. Taking down a major power will make them notice. You may be right, but my answer is no, and I'd appreciate it if you kept quiet about your idea. When you are the Hokage, I'll obey you. Until then, I'll take your advice into consideration but won't promise anything, Kakashi responded. Now I believe you had one last item you wished to discuss. I'm taking Naruto with me to get Tsunade. Kakashi had remained relatively emotionless during the conversation, but now heat entered his voice. No, I've been apart from my team for a month. I need them together, forming bonds that will last a lifetime. I will not allow you to split Team 7. Jiraiya looked at Kakashi with compassion. Kid, it shouldn't take more than a month or 2 at the most. Well, it can't take more than 2 months with the time limit you initiated. Kakashi retorted, it will ruin their teamwork. Even while I was gone, I ensured any new skills they learned were incorporated in their battle strategies. This is a critical stage in their development. 2 months is too long, they must remain together. Jiraiya frowned. I had intended to only take Naruto, but if need be I don't mind taking the other two along as well. Kakashi paused at the offer and then responded, then let me go with you. It won't be long before the world knows of Naruto's parentage. Between the two of us he will be safe. And Konoha will not be safe if we both leave Kakashi. And why are you worried about people finding out about Naruto's father? Kakashi blinked. Isn't it obvious, he thought to himself. He has blonde hair and blue eyes. He has a similar build as his father. He apprenticed under you for a month. His sensei's own sensei is Minato. He has signed the Toad contract. You've taught him the Rasengan as well, it should be easy for anyone to piece together who his father is. Jiraiya laughed. Kakashi, you're a bright kid but you are still inexperienced. Kakashi was in his 20s, so he considered it fair for Jiraiya, who was twice his age, to call him a kid. There would be a time when he would have been angry at the statement. His pride would have made him react instead of sitting back and actually listening to potential wisdom. Pride killed, and Kakashi refused to ever bow to pride again. In what way? You would piece it together, but most of the world doesn't have your mind. It is wise to never underestimate your opponent, but at times you overestimate the intelligence of the shinobi world. Based on my travels, I can virtually guarantee you that no will piece together the clues and determined Naruto is the son of Minato. Kakashi considered the sage's response. Had he been overly worried? Possibly. After all, much of the shinobi in the world did act with a high degree of foolishness. Boastful taunting, explaining abilities in the middle of a fight and other idiocy was rampant among shinobi from all of the villages. It had been shocking to Kakashi while he was in Anbu that there were no detailed after-action analysis on where shinobi could have made different decisions in battle. In fact, when he had introduced the concept as a new Anbu captain, his squad had felt attacked and belittled by the exercise. Insanity. Who wouldn't want to have their mistakes uncovered? By knowing those mistakes and examining the cause of them, they could prevent them in future battles. It would keep themselves and their comrades alive. It had been an exercise in frustration for Kakashi. This was the reason he had pounded self-analysis and acceptance of critique into the heads of his young genin team. Perhaps you are correct, however it is still a risk and other threats could seek to harm them. Sasuke is an Uchiha. Many villages would love to have the heir of the Uchiha clan, not to mention Itachi might want to finally finish the job he started. Kakashi did not know that Itachi was loyal to the Leaf. That was a closely guarded secret that only Jiraiya, Danzo, Koharu and Homura were privy to. Jiraiya briefly considered letting Kakashi know but chose not to. Hiruzen had made that decision before and he didn't feel it was his place to speak without giving the matter more thought. Instead, Jiraiya responded, I will protect them, Kakashi. I am the great Toad Sage, one of the legendary Sannin. Nothing is going to happen on my watch. Kakashi knew that Jiraiya had more pull than he did. His team was going with him outside of drastic action that Kakashi wasn't prepared to take. Furthermore, sending both of the Leaf's best shinobi out of the village during this dangerous time was an unconscionable risk. I'll hold you to that, Jiraiya. As much as I enjoy your books, there had better not be any research going on. Team 7 will be a target after what happened during the invasion. Keep your guard up the entire time. A solemn look came over the old sage's face. I get it. I'll keep them safe, you have my word. I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon, I suggest you tell them tonight. Kakashi nodded and left. He wasn't pleased with spending more time away from his team, but his hands were tied. Perhaps being away from the village would be good for the three of them. Since they were now the talk of the village, it could cause them to get swelled heads and allow their egos to grow. You had better keep your promise, Jiraiya. Break shadowy figures discussed recent events. A voice broke over the group of dangerous S-class missing nin. The Ichibi host is dead and the One Tail will not reform for another 3 years. Do not make any moves against any Jinchuriki until the Ichibi rises. A voice responded, what will do in the meantime? Preparations will be made, orders will come shortly. The impromptu astral meeting ended and the Akatsuki members awaited further instructions. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.